We're here to entertain you. We'll sing your songs.
Hey there. Are you obsessed with things that happened before your time? Well, if you are, join me, the host of Before My Time, Kelsey Laurie, to discuss the wonders of the yesteryears that we weren't around to enjoy ourselves. You can find us on all podcast platforms.
Dixieland's a playing, soon you'll be swaying, so come on, sing along.
So let me ask you this before we dive in. Do you know how this is pronounced? Tonio K? Is that?
I think that's right.
Okay. Are you a fan of Tonio K?
I am not familiar enough with Tonio K, to be honest. And I've heard this reference before in connection to this song as a sort of marker for Al, but I do not know a ton.
So let me tell you a little bit about Tonio K, Matthew, because
Please do.
I when I was reading this, I'm like, Tonio K, why is that name familiar to me? Tonio K might be the only artist that Al has done 2 style parodies of. He did another style parody of him on Off the Deep End with I Was Only Kidding.
Right.
And if you think of the way he sings that song and the way he sings this song, you can tell that there's a very similar vocal performance that he's doing.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of a deep dive into Tonio K's music because I wanted to figure out what song was the biggest influence on Happy Birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured it out. I found that one out for us. And I'll play a clip of it later on in the episode so people can hear it. But also, if you're a fan of the Dead Kennedys, I would check out Tonio K. There is a very Dead Kennedys attitude that I found in this artist. Everybody, we're talking about the song Happy Birthday. I believe you told me that this was one of the 2 songs that he continued to play in the most recent novelty tour, correct?
Yes, when he did the Vanity tour where he was just doing originals from this record, it was, I believe, the only songs that he played from it were Happy Birthday and Mr. Frump.
Here's the thing about this song. Al has been very open that he is not a fan of this self-titled. You've even pointed out just now, he only even recognizes 2 of the songs on this as a live performer. He re-recorded this song in 2017.
He did, yeah. Yeah, he did, which is crazy.
He loves this song, and from what I understood, when I did my deep dive on Tonio K, what I came up with was that Al isn't just a fan of this artist. I think that Al sees Tonio K as almost like a kindred spirit of his. In the same way that we were talking about on Gotta Boogie, how there's this very clear Frank Zappa vibe that flows through all of his music. That's there with this artist. And the song that I found that felt like was the one that made the most sense was on his debut album, Tonio K's debut album. He has a song called The Funky Western Civilization.
Wow. I love that name.
Come on, everybody, get on your feet. Get with the beat. There's a brand new dance craze sweeping the nation. And it's called the Funky Western Civilization. Being trampled by 1,000 pious feet. There's a baby every minute being born without a chance. Now don't that make you want to jump right up and start to dance? Let's do the funky.
Here's a couple of the lyrics that you'll get in verse 2. They put Jesus on a cross and put a hole in JFK. They put Hitler in the driver's seat and then looked the other way. Now they've got poison in the water because the whole world's in a trance. Just because we're hypnotized doesn't mean that we don't get to dance. We've got the funky Western civilization.
Wow.
So you can see
totally.
You can see Al maybe wouldn't get that that dark and kind of political in a lot of his songs, but that influence of like, we're going to say some messed up, shocking stuff under the guise of a happy song, 110% what we're talking about with Happy Birthday.
Absolutely. Even the way you read those lyrics, like the cadence of those lines feels very Al.
Yes. The origins of this song, though, Al wanted to do a style parody of Tony K because it was one of his favorite artists, but it's a morbidly depressing birthday song detailing all of the ails in the world, including poverty, nuclear holocausts, and even solar cataclysms. Seeing that there was only 2 popular birthday songs at the time, Happy Birthday to You and Birthday by the Beatles, Yankovic decided to write his own, admittedly a severely twisted version of one.
Man, yes, it really is very, again, another like, it's interesting because he's always had this like, actually I should say, because I'm surprised when I listen to some of his stuff, like he has, even for me who's like such a huge fan, like every once in a while, the darkness that you get in Weird Al songs, I find shocking.
Yes. Because you think of him as so G. You think of him as like a GPG artist. And he still is, but like, so on my Christmas podcast, we did an episode where we analyzed the 2 Weird Al Christmas songs.
Yes.
And my co-host was not really a Weird Al guy.
Yeah.
And he was not prepared for Night Santa Went Crazy. Like, he was like, this song made me uncomfortable. Like,
I was going to say, I have a memory of, and we'll get into this more later, but Bad Hair Day, I had, it was like the first Al album I got as a kid. And the Night Santa Went Crazy, I found genuinely upsetting.
It's
as a
scary
child.
song.
Like, I was
scary
disturbed
song.
by that. There are a lot throughout his career that are genuinely like unsettling, disturbing content. Like it's, and this is comparatively not that bad, but you do every once in a while. Cause again, we talked only a couple weeks ago about I Love Rocky Road, which is so light and just like straight goofy comedy. And then he interjects in some of these songs, like a dark outlook on the world. And this definitely has a dark outlook.
So when I listen to the Tonio K stuff, when I specifically listen to Funky Western Civilization, the note that I wrote down was, you could literally have sent me 3 or 4 Tonio K songs and said that they were like unreleased Weird Al songs, and I would have 100% believed you. Like they are very comparable. So if you feel like, oh man, I've listened to all the Weird Al that there ever is, and I want more and there isn't more, maybe check out Tonio K. It's definitely more of an R-rated Weird Al, but there's a very similar vibe to the whole attitude.
I'm going to do a real deep dive on Tonio K so that when we get to the next Tonio K track,
you're
I
like
feel
the
like
expert.
I'm completely prepared for it. This is a good opportunity for an alternate perspective coming up down the line.
But so what are your opinions on Happy Birthday?
I like this one. So this is very fun. And this is also like, again, talking about like these markers on this record of where he goes later on in his career. And in terms of the sound of this track, the music, the instrumentation, this is getting closer to where he's going to go later. This has this like chaotic, super high energy, frantic sound to it. And it's fast, and it's just got like, it feels like it's coming off the rails almost without how, like, he's just blurting it all out. Everything about it is so like, it feels like the tempo of this song, like on paper, is as fast as we possibly can.
Yes. No, and something I forgot to mention last week, but it's worth bringing up right now, Buckingham Blues and Ricky were the last 2 songs recorded for this album.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. It makes sense. At first I was like, that doesn't make any sense, because usually he would record all of his originals first and then do the parodies later. But knowing that Buckingham Blues was supposed to be a parody originally, it kind of makes sense to me that would be the case. But the reason I bring that up is that I think it's so interesting that we're talking about a bunch of songs on the same album, but with each original song, we already can feel the progression getting closer and closer to like what we've come to expect from a Weird Al original, which is wild to me.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Like this is, and there's one other, again, we'll get to it. There's one other song on this record, one other original that is very much what I think, what I consider a template for where he went later with originals. But yeah, this really feels like he's finding his voice as a songwriter. And it is a style parody, as we said, but in terms of him finding his voice for originals, this is a real clear line of like, wow, this sounds like Al.
Yeah. And it is still a funny song. It's a demented song. It's actually a song that I forget about. Like, early on, I think in the Ricky episode, I said that there was 2 originals that would rank among some of my all-time favorite Al originals. We still haven't gotten there yet for me. But when I was listening to this for the recording, I legitimately thought to myself, like, this one might maybe not be top 20, but it could be in the top 30 for me. I think I forgot how much I like this song. It's such a vast improvement to me over like Gotta Boogie and Buckingham Palace as far as the original songs go.
Yeah.
But it's still not in like that. I feel like the later half, like I said, side B of this, if you're looking at it as a record, is like side A is almost like, hey, here's kind of where we're heading.
Yeah.
And then side B is like, this is what the future will be. Like,
Yeah, it's very, very true. I agree. I think this ranks reasonably high. I think that, again, I would say it's not going to be my favorite original on this record, but at least I don't think so. I'm curious to like revisit these things as we go. But this is a great, great early Al original for sure.
yeah. And it is interesting to me of the originals that are on this, that this is one of the ones that has like continued to be in his set lists, that this is like kind of persevered,
and that he re-recorded. I mean, obviously something about this track really still resonates with him and he still identifies with.
Well, he re-recorded it for a movie. He recorded it for a 2017 movie called How to Be a Latin Lover, which I feel like I've heard of the title of this movie. I haven't seen it. I added it immediately to because I still get Netflix DVDs in the mail.
Wow, you do. Good for you, man.
Yeah, I added it to my DVD queue.
I love
because
that.
it's directed by Ken Marino of The State.
Oh, no shit.
And it has, dude, listen to this cast. This is an all-star comedy cast. Weird Al is in the movie as himself.
Wow.
So I think he performs it in the movie, perhaps. This is the cast of this How to Be a Latin Lover movie. Selma Hayek, Rob Lowe, Kristen Bell, Raquel Welch, Rob Rigel, Rob Hubel, Rob Condry, Michael Cera, Weird Al Yankovic, Ben Schwartz.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And it's been remade. So they made a French version of it in 2019 called How to Be a French Lover.
Really?
And then it's also been remade as an Apple Plus TV show called Acapulco. Which I hear amazing things of. I've had multiple people, including my friend
That's
Lauren, who's
crazy.
told
No,
me
I've heard of that too.
Acapulco's incredible, but it's all based on this Ken Marino movie.
I had no idea. You know, Ken Marino is from my pretty small hometown.
I feel like you being in New York, you're basically in the state country, which is... I mean, look, I don't have a ton to say about Happy Birthday, and I don't know when we're going to get to bring up Ken Marino in the state again. So I am happy to go on a slight divergent tangent to talk about why I think the state is the greatest sketch comedy group that has ever existed and probably ever will.
I mean, I'm here to talk about it. He was a big enough deal in my... I remember being in elementary school, and on days where it was like raining, so we couldn't have outdoor recess, we would go to the auditorium, and one of the teachers put on the state because they had taught Ken and they were so excited. They were like, oh my God, this is like my former student and now he has a TV show. And I mean, we're like 10 years old. It was not even remotely appropriate. I cannot believe that we all sat around and watched this sketch comedy show. But I remember it so vividly because they were just so insanely excited that someone from my town had made it to the big time.
I feel like the state, as far as sketch comedy goes, is one of the biggest parallels to Weird Al in their sense of comedy. Because especially with this album, as we've talked about how this album is the definition of Weird Al being anti-everything, like you watch those state sketches and everything is up for mockery.
Without a doubt. Yeah, for sure.
It is the most punk rock sketch comedy I've ever seen, and I was so late to the game. I never watched a sketch by the state until college, which would have been like 2005, 2006, when someone showed me Wet Hot American Summer, and it blew my mind, like what you could do as like a comedy parody film. Because like I grew up on Mel Brooks, and I grew up on like Airplane and Naked Gun, but man, Wet Hot American Summer seems, even to this day when I watch it, it's over 20 years old, it's like, this is the most unique way to do a parody film I have ever seen in my entire life, because it is truly taking the piss out of every summer camp film you've ever seen.
No, that is if anyone who has not, because again, we're talking about all of these things, but they are all, I feel like, under the lens of, if you like Weird Al and enjoy his sense of humor,
100%.
you will probably enjoy this. If you have not seen Wet Hot American Summer, the movie. There's a Netflix like sort of reboot series, which is fun, but you have to go back and watch just the movie, the original.
Yeah, the movie, the show will not make sense if you don't watch it.
No, it will not make any sense. And but it's also one of those, go back and watch it and realize that everybody in the movie at that point were completely no-name, up-and-coming actors, and virtually every single person in that cast you will recognize.
Oh, 100%.
It's like the first role that they ever had, and it's amazing how much came from that group.
And the fact that they all still seem to like each other.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about again, Al's band, like to have a group of 11 creative-minded people who met in college, who to this day are still collaborating with each other, still will get together for reunions. Like,
yeah. Well, I would say they split off, and there's the after the state ended, they split into two groups, and one went on to do a very short-lived but also very precious to me sketch comedy show called Stella.
Stella's great. I thought you were going to say Viva
loved.
Variety, which I also absolutely
also
loved.
Good. But I would say three of them went on to do Stella. A lot of the rest of them went on to do Reno 911.
Yep.
And it kind of like diverged that way, but they all have remained friends, and
there's always crossover.
There's always
crossover. You'll see some of the Reno 911 people make cameos in Stella videos, and you'll see the three men that make up Stella pop up in Reno 911.
I don't know if you can watch Stella anymore. I don't know anywhere you could watch that show.
I know where you can watch it, in my basement on the DVD set that I bought.
Everybody, we are going to Matt's. We're going to watch it's like 10 episodes, I think, of Stella.
I think it's only 6.
Is it only 6?
Super
it might even
short.
only be 6. That is a very weird, but man, that is very much my sense of humor.
I remember someone showed me Stella. That may have even been before I'd watched The State. Someone had shown me Stella, and they showed me one specific bit that is still to me one of the funniest things, which is, you've got the three guys from Stella, which is Michael Ian Black, Michael Showalter, and David Wayne, and they all live together, and they're always dressed in suits, no matter what, and everything is just like goes from 0 to 100 instantaneously.
Yeah.
And in this particular episode, their neighbor broke a heel and is asking if they have any glue. And one of them is talking at the front door to her while the other two are frantically looking through the house to find glue to help her. And they're like taking knives to pillows and like tearing them open and like flipping over couches trying to find the glue. And then all of a sudden one of them's just like, oh, I know where it is. And it just cuts to a tiny drawer in the kitchen that's just labeled glue. And he just slowly opens it and pulls out a single stick of glue to hand.
Yeah, that's a great example of what the comedy of that show is like. It is just absurd, but super, super fun. Again, aside from going to Matt's house, I'm not sure how you watch Stella nowadays, but try to find it if you
try
can.
To find it. The other one that I always would quote with my friends is there's a scene where they're talking, again, to the same neighbor, and they're making fun of them, and she goes like, why do you guys always smell like chicken nuggets? And they get so angry, and they're like storming back to their house and like, how dare she say we smell like chicken nuggets? But the whole time they're like fighting about this, they are just pulling chicken nuggets out of every pocket available on their suits.
Yeah.
Absurd comedy, but again, fits perfectly into the Weird Al family.
Absolutely.
It is pure chaos. I need to see. I am excited to eventually sit down and watch How to Be a Latin Lover. And as much as I wanted to watch Acapulco, now I feel like I want to watch that movie first and then check out the show so I can kind of see the parallels a little bit more.
Yeah.
But good stuff. Matt, where are you ranking this one amongst the originals? Is this currently your number one is Gotta Boogie? Are you putting
currently
it
my
above?
number one is Gotta Boogie? This is going to have to take the crown. The short-lived crown of Gotta Boogie.
Yes.
A 2 or 3 week long crown. Happy birthday wins.
And mine's going to number one as well. Right now, it's just been all escalation on my original songs, and that'll continue to be the case for maybe like one or two more originals.
A random, just really quick, because I was just like was re-looking at the lyrics. Do you know what I guess it's verse 2. Your daddy's in the gutter with the wretched and the poor. Your mama's in the kitchen with a can of Cycle 4. Do you know what that is?
What is Cycle 4?
I don't know either. I assume it's a beer of some kinds. Like this is another like interesting like dated. I assume that at some point everybody would have known what that was, but feel like I've never heard of that before.
I'm gonna look. Your mama's in the kitchen with a can of Cycle 4. Cycle 4 is a dog food brand that was sold in the U.S. from 1970 to 1990 with indefinite recipes covering stages of the dog's life. Cycle 4 was intended for dogs who are on their last leg.
Wow.
The lyric addresses the issues of senior citizen poverty. News stories of this era sometimes reported that elderly Americans were forced to survive on pet food to stretch out their limited budgets.
Oh my God, that is so much worse than I thought it was going to be. Like, wow, you're talking about how dark this track is. That is, oof. Wow. Your mama's in the kitchen with a can of Cycle 4. God, that's rough.
There's garbage in the water and there's poison in the sky. I guess it won't be long before we're all going to die.
We're all going to die.
Oh, here's a last question to set
Yeah.
us out. I'd like to find some questions to tie to these originals specifically.
Yeah.
Do you have a song? Obviously, someone's birthday pops up, you'll send them a happy birthday message. But, if it's someone that you really are that you care about more than just like a person you're Facebook friends with, maybe you'll go the extra mile, you'll post a GIF or sometimes post a song. Have you ever posted a birthday song to somebody? And if so, was it this song? Would you send them like Weird Al's Happy Birthday or?
I have done this exact thing before. Like as a Facebook post on someone's wall on their birthday. I've also, this is taken from my brother because my brother started to do this and I loved it so much. He would go on YouTube and look up, those like pre-recorded, like a song where they inject the song is the same and they just change the name for kids. Like, hey, it's your birthday, Andrew.
Yeah.
And there are, if you look on YouTube, there are so many of those, like the same song, like an original song by someone with just the different names inserted for every kid in the world.
Amazing.
And so that has become the more common, like happy birthday song. Like I'll find like one of those and post that. But I certainly have used this before. This is definitely an excellent happy birthday message to a loved one.
Were you familiar with the cartoon Home Movies?
Oh, yes.
So there was an episode where it was the bully Fenton's birthday.
Yes.
And they play a song called the Happy Birthday Song, and it is the most obnoxious birthday song I've ever heard in my life. So, especially if it was a friend of mine who was a Home Movies fan, they would get this.
Oh, birthday is a doodly-doo, a ding-dong, goodly-doodly, ding-dong-doo. A birthday, how do you do? Open presents, cake is too.
Oh my God. That's so good. Man, once we're done with this, we could do a whole podcast about Home Movies because, man, I loved that show so much. The music in that show, the more Weird Al like adjacent stuff, the like Franz Kafka rock opera.
I knew that's what you're going for.
Of course,
Well,
it's just so brilliant.
it's so and it's weird because like I enjoy metal. I'm not a metal head, so like Metalocalypse never hit for me on the same way that like Home Movies. I was like, this is. To this day, I think it is one of the most brilliant cartoons I've ever seen.
Without a doubt.
It is like top 5 cartoons for me.
Without a doubt.
We'll get through our 190 something episodes that we have to do of this Owl cast.
Yeah.
Actually,
for people who don't, I was gonna say really quick, for people who don't know about Home Movies, that was 2 people created that show. One of them was Lauren Bouchard, who went on to make Bob's Burgers.
Yep.
Who's
And the
still
other
doing
one was
Bob's
Brendan
Burgers.
Small.
And Brendan Small did Metalocalypse, which was a longer running Adult Swim series. Home
And
Movies.
if we want to talk about underappreciated musicians in the music world, Brendan Small is
Oh my God.
legitimately one of the most incredibly talented guitarists you could possibly find.
Truly amazing. Yeah. And really funny.
Also, I came up. I'm going to tell you about this live on the air, but I had an idea for a little side thing that we can do on this show
Ooh.
because I never even thought about this being a possibility, right? But I posted about us doing this Weird Al podcast on Facebook, and my friend Aubrey was like, "Hey, my friend directed one of his videos. If you'd ever want to interview him," which made me realize, we probably will be able at some point to interview some of the behind the scenes folks of a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So if you ever see an episode pop up in the feed called A Brush with Weirdness, that's going to just be us talking to someone who was involved in the production of something Weird Al-y.
I love that. That's great.
So, if you know anybody who like worked on a Weird Al tour or directed a video, let us know and tell them, hey, these guys would love to talk to you, because I think that would be fun. I would love to learn stories.
Yeah, without a doubt.
We'll be back next week with another parody, and I don't know where we're going to land on this one. I'm kind of curious.
Oh, me too.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network. You're listening to the Geekscape Network.